Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, The Importance of Accurate Financial Reporting. I'm Michelle from G3G and will be your hostess for today. 980 days ago, we went into hard lockdown in South Africa. Thus, for 2 years, 8 months, and 3 days, you've been exposed to various webinar platforms. So I'm making the assumption that you know the platform like the back of your palm. I'm not going to give you the ordinary rundown on how the system works, but I would please like to encourage you to participate with our speakers. Please ask questions and share your thoughts in the question and chat section. And as always, the webinar is recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. If you've joined one of our webinars before, I normally go off on a tangent, giving some facts and figures on the topic of hand. But I definitely don't need to tell you how important accurate financial reporting is. So I'm going to make use of my 2 minutes of fame and tell you a bit about our fabulous partner, Zap. Founded in 2001, they are a modern data stack and software as a service organization that transforms data management and analytics for SME businesses into actionable insight. Their pre-built solutions mean that implementation takes only days and not months. And its inclusive, user-friendly reporting tool ensures that you can get going quickly and easily, and it almost provides immediate benefits. We are not only here to tell you about the importance of accurate financial reporting, but also to show you in a quick demo how you can leverage a tool like Zap to make informed decisions and manage your business from a financial point of view. It's probably here where I introduce you to David from Zap and our very own Ian. David is the Partner Enablement Manager for the EMEA region. His expertise ranges from technical implementations to commercial roles in pre-sales and sales. He is instrumental in helping businesses adapt BI solutions and to showcase the power of data as a key differentiator for your organization and within your industry. Ian has been part of the SAP Business One community for the past 17 years, starting out as the implementation consultant himself. He now heads up the SME business unit at G3G and plays an integral role in advising how our clients can benefit from technology in their business while inspiring our consultants to use that technology to put our clients onto the roadmap to the intelligent enterprise. Welcome, gents. Over to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for the introductions. To everyone that joins us today, welcome. Thank you for making the time, especially during silly season, when we're all in a bit of a mad rush to close off the year and on a good note, and take a well-deserved December break. Today, we are going to look at a topic that is important to all businesses, but especially important for our small and medium enterprises that have very little to no room to make decisions based on poor financial information. We've also seen during the last 3 years that we need to be able to act quickly to withstand the impact of pandemics, as well as the economic downturn that conflict in other countries have on the global economy. And to assist us with this, we desperately need accurate financial information. During this time, you might have heard buzzwords like digital transformation and big data. Why are these relevant to the conversation? Well, to handle big data, you need to become a digital business and make use of the digital tools to handle the 3 V's that big data throws at us. So if we look at the first one, it's variety. Data comes from different sources. Velocity, the rate at which data is being generated is mind-blowing. And we know data no longer keeps office hours. And finally, volume. The amount of data can be overwhelming to handle. We require speed and accuracy and clarity to report accurately. And by using manual processes, we are just poking Godzilla with a butter knife. So today on our agenda, we are going to look at the importance of financial reporting in 2022 to 2023, the traditional financial reporting challenges. Financial reporting challenges, we're going to look at how to go beyond with the BI solution. We're going to look at Zap BI for SAP Business One, and then we'll go into our product showcase. So, why is financial reporting so important, and how do we do that? With that question in mind, I'll hand over to David. David, the floor is yours.
Sorry, and thank you very much. I was struggling to find my mouse in the screen. There we go. All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Let me just, my mouse disappeared for some reason. There we go. Okay, perfect. So, as Ian mentioned, I am going to start speaking first about the global economy and what is the current situation right now, and why is so important digital transformation. So the world is constantly changing and evolving, and two of the biggest lessons that COVID-19 has taught us, and I'm just going to, focus entirely on financial reporting. Firstly, is that the global economy is entirely changing and evolving. And secondly, it is that digitalization is a paramount and it holds the promise to dramatically maximize the efficiency and the productivity of businesses. And one way of how digital transformation is doing all these changes is by turning data into insights that can help organizations make better decisions. And both have entirely changed how we make businesses, how we interact with people, how we interact with work colleagues, how we attend to sessions like the webinar that you're attending in this specific moment, how we approach customers, how we do business. So it has entirely modified the world that we know today. And many businesses have been able to evolve, to adapt to these changes, to overcome these unprecedented times, while others unfortunately haven't been that successful. And many unfortunately have been forced to close their doors. So as we approach the end of year 2022 and we begin to look ahead for the upcoming year, we realize that the economy is not exactly optimistic, and we realize that there are many challenges that we need to be prepared for. We are right now living a post-pandemic crisis. We have many geopolitical tensions. We have many trade wars and trade deficits. The increasing interest rates are going high. We have high levels of government debt. The increasing cost of living is affecting our economy, the cost of electricity, the cost of gas, the cost of rents. So we realize with all of these challenges taking place, we realize that we need to be extra careful on how as company we are managing our financials, how we are taking our decisions, how we are handling our investments. So based on these two concepts I mentioned, with the world evolving at such a fast pace, changing, and with digitalization hitting and digital transformation creating data at exponential speed, it is not surprising that data and analytics initiatives are one of the most important priorities for many CIOs, CEOs, and CFOs. However, despite millions are invested in these initiatives, many organizations are still struggling to get the payoff on these investments. And today, it is still common to find that many companies are still basing their decisions based on hundreds of static reports, views, which they are disconnected from each another, and that they are not providing an holistic view of the business. We have many versions of the truth. If you ask two different people within the same business or within the same team to give you a specific report or a specific number, it's highly likely that they will give you different approaches because they use different criteria to prepare the reports or different business rules. So it's not surprising to find inconsistencies in the outputs, which is not only about informational chaos, but it's also about bringing inaccurate reporting. And as we already mentioned, in this world that is constantly changing, inaccurate financial reporting can have a massive negative impact and consequences. And it's just a matter about reading the news to find out that investors are losing confidence in the companies. They are in the IT industry, for example, there have been massive layoffs. We hear that in Twitter, in Facebook, in Amazon. Companies are being fined, companies are being sued, And the stock prices, the share prices are dropping down. And this is because they didn't understand the whole market. They didn't have full visibility, or probably they took wrong decisions. So these consequences have serious impact in how business, are performing, and they can eventually lead to the company downfall. So this is why having accurate financial information is so important, especially in today's world, which is a digital world, and we need to be more agile on how we extract our data and how we convert the data into meaningful insights that will allow us not only to take better decisions, but also, to craft strategies that will help us overcome this unprecedented time. So, I want to talk about what is happening. Why are companies still struggling to create financial reporting? So, throughout the webinar, I will drill down to understand a little bit about what are the traditional scenarios that we actually face, and where are we actually struggling. So, let me change the slide. So, SAP, as most ERP solutions, ERP softwares, already have inbuilt reports that allow you as a user to create your own report, and start analyzing your financial information. And this is only on the financials, but you have reports in other different areas of the business. In most cases, when we focus on financials, we have financial statements, profit and loss statements, balance sheet statements, uh, and sometimes, for depending on the requirements of the business, these reports are enough. But many times we require to create our financial statement in a different format. Probably we want to break down the information by financial dimensions, or probably we want, or segments, or we want to break down certain accounts, or we want to make financial consolidation. And the requirements that we have out of the box, well, the reports that we have out of the box are not enough. And as I mentioned before, in this digital area, if we want to be better prepared to overcome these unprecedented times, it is not only about the financial reporting. If we want to expand our analysis to get a much more holistic view and a strategic view of the business, we need to prepare something different. And in most scenarios, when we want to prepare financial reporting, and when we want to structure the data in a shape and format that we require, many times we need to do this manually. So unfortunately, financial reporting is still many times done manually, which is not only time consuming, but it's also error prone. So what I have in the screen, and this is what I normally see in many scenarios on how we create reports, and depending on the business, there might be more steps, or we might report in a little bit different. But normally, the first step is exporting the data into from the ERP, from SAP into Excel. And this process is normally done by the IT team, where we create certain queries to aggregate the data in the format that we require, or we run reports in the ERP, such as the trial balance. And then we want to export those files probably into a CSV file or an Excel, so we can export this and we can deliver this content, this data that has been already manipulated, to the end user, so they can start creating their own reports. Then there's a second element of manipulation, and that's where the business users manually, manipulate the data. And this is a really risky step, because this is where users many times, we are grouping and regrouping the account in the format that we require. We manually make, look B. We try to make manual formulas and calculations to find, to extract values around different tabs. And then we end up with one Excel file with an army of tabs where we have different formulas. And, even to identify errors, it's really hard. And I have seen many scenarios where, after they have closed the balance, they by accident multiply one number by -1, and the entire figures change. So there are massive impacts, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. So once we manage the accounts, we have all the formats, we have all the formulas. Now we need to format the reports. We need to break down information on segments, on cost center, departments, on different dates, probably by quarter, by year. And probably we need to also do some manual work. We want to prepare report packs for the board, for the shareholder. So there is a massive amount of manual work that is done there. So depending on the complexity on the data and the complexity of the reports that we want to build, this process can take days, and sometimes I have heard that it takes also weeks to finish all this process. So Excel is a powerful tool, and despite it being powerful, and it can be used effectively to analyze data from the ERP systems, but there are many downsides of it. So I want to highlight just some of these downsides. And right now I'm just focusing about Excel reporting, but many other times we use some management reporting tools that are just really static and they are not providing a complete overview of the business. So one of the downsides of having this approach to analyze the data, first is that this is a time-consuming process, right? And it's not only an effort that we are doing one time, it's an effort that we are doing every month. So every month, the amount of money and time and effort that we're spending to create these reports is just massive. Now, transforming the data manually, as I already mentioned, it's prone to errors, both in how we are entering the data and also the formulas that we are using for analysis. So it's hard to identify where those issues are. And when it comes to the lack of ability to track and manage KPIs, we have reports which are not KPI oriented. They are much more oriented on a static report. So when we want to combine information, it's hard to get that full picture of the business. And many times we end up with an army of reports and files that are not providing an entirely overview of the business. Excel is not really well suited to handle large amounts of data. So we barely have drilling down capabilities because the information that we have is, aggregated probably at the trial balance level. So if we want to understand all the story behind our transactions, it's hard to get that feeling. Um, they only focus on financial data. So if we want to do cross-functional reporting, because again, this is the whole story of the business. If we want to truly understand the financials, it's not only about financial statements and financial KPIs. It's about how the financials interact with the sales, with inventory. So we cannot do cross-functional reporting. Also, it's challenging to integrate different data sources. The full picture is not only the information that we have in SAP, it's about also integrating information from forecast, budgeting, that maybe we have budgeting systems or historical data. And many times we have advanced financial requirements such as currency conversion, financial consolidation, intercompany transaction between holdings and subsidiaries, eliminations intercompany. And also there's a risk of who has access to the information. The information should be accessible, but to the right people. Having that information in files in Excel, it's not probably the best approach. That information can go just in the wrong hands. These are some of the main challenges that we've seen, and these have a massive negative impact when it comes to having inaccurate financial reporting. So, how can we overcome this challenge? Well, the whole idea of a BI solution, of a data analytics solution, is to reduce this whole gap of doing this process, manually. It's about automating this process, about reducing the amount of time that we spend preparing these reports. And it's about providing powerful data transformation capabilities that will automatically extract those data and will create insights that will allow us to get a full picture of how the business is performing. And and will allow us also empower us with many functionalities such as currency conversion, consolidation, bringing historical data, making comparative analysis, and predict how the forecast and the cash flow are going to be performing in the next weeks. So now, when it comes to who we are, ZAP, focusing on these challenges is the whole reason of our existence. So we want to connect people. We want to connect people from all the different areas of the business with the data. We understand that there are standard KPIs that are used globally. such as, if I return to my previous slide, such as the liquidity ratios, ROA, EBITDA, return of assets. So these are quite generic KPIs that are used across all industries, across all regions. But we also understand we understand how SAP works. So that is basically why we come out with out-of-the-box solutions for different modules, not only for financials with financial statements, but also sales, inventory, where we address, the gap of starting a BI project from scratch, where, you need to spend up to 9 months, 1 year to build a business plan, a design phase, to try to start getting some insights. So we are aware of all those issues, and that's why we know that the value to time is critical. And that's why our pre-built solution is literally a plug and play that will allow you to instantly get hundreds of metrics and hundreds of KPIs in just a matter of days. So before I jump into the presentation and the demo of the solution, I want to quickly show you how is the architecture of the solution and how the solution actually works. So right now, okay, now I have finally the pointer here. I want to show you how is the full architecture of the solution. So as I already mentioned, creating one report is not only about connecting a visualization to with a data set and immediately extracting, a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. It's a process where we need to extract data, where we need to process data, and we need to format in a way that it's, usable for the end users. So out of the box, we provide, hundreds of reports, trial balances, balance sheet statements, profit and loss. But we know that every business is different, and we need to be able, to customize the solution based on your requirements. So out of the box, these analytics are pre-built because we have a pre-built data models, and probably here I'm touching a little bit of technical stuff, but we have a data warehouse, we have a cube, which is handling all transformations. And the first step is where we are collecting the data. So this is where the whole journey of the data transformation process starts. And from here, we know which are the tables from SAP that we need to use to start, building these reports. But we can also add information from historical data sources, from Excel files, from cloud systems, from a CRM, from other systems that you actually use. So then in the data modeling section is where we give meaning to data. Here's where we can handle all those transformations. Hey, I want to do currency conversions. I want to do eliminations in the company. I want to do the retained earnings calculations. So all of those calculations and heavy lifting transformations that we require, this is, the factory where we transform the data. And finally, this last step is how we present the data. Of course, we need to have a data governance functionalities where we can control who has access to the data to manage permissions and be sure that the persons are looking at the right data. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to jump into the demonstration of the product. I want to first show you what is the pre-built content that we provide out of the box. Then I will show you some business cases and reports that we have built specifically on financial reporting, such as cash flow forecasting and, aggregating historical information. And then, if the time permits, I want to build one report from scratch so you can see the whole ease of use. It's not only about what we provide out of the box. It's not only about what reports you can create. It's about the ease of use, that you will have the power to, to adapt the solution and customize the solution based on your requirements. So I'm going to stop sharing my camera and I'm going to switch to my demo. So Ian, can you just confirm with me if you can see now my my web browser?
Yes, I can, David.
Perfect. All right. So the first thing that I want to show you is how Zap works. And as you can see, this is a web-based application solution. Right now, I'm using my web browser, and this means that you can actually use your tablet or your mobile phone if you want to analyze the information. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to press F11. I'm going to expand the screen. and so you can get a closer overview about how the solution works. The first thing that I want to show you is the menu. So in the menu, here we are going to store all of our reports. We have a favorite folder where we can store our most commonly used reports. We have a personal folder where we are going to store our own personal reports, and only I am going to be the only person that has access to that specific folder. And then finally, I have a public folder where, we can create different groups and subgroups, and we can control who has access to those specific folders. So the whole idea of these public folders is, to promote collaboration, to share reports across different, departments, so we can start brainstorming ideas and we can come across without solutions to face all these unprecedented times. So what I am showing you right now is the out-of-the-box content that we have for SAP. So we have analytics for financials, we have analytics for inventory, for manufacturing, for procurement and sales. But today I'm going to only concentrate my attention on the financials. So if you want to see a more in-depth demo of the solution, or you want to see any other module, please reach out to us and we will be more than happy to to provide you with a demo of the solution. So these folders, as I mentioned, we can control actually who has access to these folders. So I can say, hey, this is the financial folder, and I only want that the financial people, that my financial team has access to this folder. So in this way, we start governing the data and we start controlling who has access to which data. Now, if I open our financial folder, we will see that we are breaking down the financial analysis in different submodules, such as accounts payable, such as accounts receivable, general ledger. In the general ledger, we will find all the financial statements, the balance sheet statement, profit and loss statement, cash flow statement. And I am going to start my demo with this dashboard, which is the Chief Financial Officer dashboard. And in my opinion, this is one of my favorite reports. And the reason why is because in one single screen, I have a high level overview about how the financial health of my business is performing. Okay, what I have here, this is the content that you are going to get out of the box within just a couple of days, even hours. And the whole idea of this is to provide you with a starting point. Every business is different. In every region there are different requirements for different business rules that we need to apply. But again, the whole idea is that you don't start the project from scratch, that you already start with probably 50, 60, 70%, 80% of your requirements, and you just start customizing this based on our requirements. Now, this dashboard contains information of 3 financial statements. On the left-hand side, everything that is on the left of the mouse contains information related to a profit and loss statement, where we have the net sales, gross margin, operating profit, which are metrics that are quite generic. It doesn't really matter what type of industry you're using. You are highly likely to use these metrics. And it's not only about the standard KPIs, it's about how we present information. So if I maximize the chart, we will see that we are analyzing my net sales and my cost of sales across time. So in this way, we can identify, trends. We can identify where we have valleys in the data, where we have spikes. For example, here we have a spike in this particular month of the data, and here we have a specific value. So we can always hover over to understand, the story behind the data. It's about interacting. It's about asking questions. It's about having meaningful insights that can, trigger actions. So when I analyze this number, I will say that my gross margin in the month of July is below 50%. And let's say, as an example, that my standard, I don't want to get my gross margin below 50%. So based on those metrics, I can create business alerts. I can say, hey, if my gross margin is below 50%, I want the system to automatically send me an email a notification telling me, hey, your gross margin is dropping below our standards. Have a look at the reports. And probably, I attach this chart and a profit and loss statement so I can understand what are the reasons behind my gross margin being below 50%. Now, here I continue analysis with the income, expenses, and operating profit over time. On the center of the screen, I have the second financial statement, which is a cash flow statement, right? I have metrics related to accounts payable, account receivable, and when we compare those metrics, we have cash to cash cycle. And in a moment, I will show you a cash flow forecast, which is based on the metrics that we have here. Finally, on the right-hand side of the screen, we have KPIs and ratios, which are related to a balance sheet statement, where we have assets, we have liabilities. And when we compare this, it's not only, again, about assets and liabilities, it's about getting ratios, about getting a deep understanding of the business. We get debt ratio, or if we are talking about current assets or current liabilities, we're getting working capital ratios, quick ratios, which are, KPIs that are commonly used across the organization. Now, this is starting point. You can always customize based on your requirements. So you can, if you want to change this chart and replace it with another chart, or if you want to change the logic of, let's say, the quick ratio, you can always customize this based on your requirements. Now, in this case, behind the scenes is happening a massive amount of work. We right now see numbers, but as I mentioned before, we are already transforming the data. So we are doing currency conversion. So for example, in this case, we have 4 companies. So these 4 companies, they might be operating in different currencies. Probably one is in USD, another one is probably in euros, the other one is in rand. So when we want to analyze the whole picture, we require to do currency conversions. Probably we also need to require and consolidate the analytics using the same financial periods. Probably we have a financial year that starts in January, another company, the financial year starts in July. So we can also do, calendar conversions. So behind the scenes is happening a massive amount of work in order to provide you with this, which is already, a plug and play. Now, reports need to be actionable. They need to inspire us to go and want to analyze more to understand the full picture of the business. So right now, I am analyzing all the companies out of the box. We are just aggregating information, but we can do, financial consolidation, intercompany transactions if needed. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to concentrate my attention on this chart, which is the gross margin over time. So as I mentioned during, some of the limitations that we have today with many reporting tools, is that we focus only on financial data. And here we can do cross-functional reporting because we have one single data model, one single source of truth. So what we have here is basically, we have my net sales and my cost of sales. So if I click in these 3 dots, I can drill down to the information to analyze information from different perspectives. I can analyze it from the income statement perspective, which might be logic if I'm analyzing the net sales, but I can also analyze this from a sales perspective, to analyze the sales invoices, to analyze the sales transactions. So we can, drill down and analyze information from different angles to understand the whole story of the business. So I'm going to click on this one, which is the income statement, and this is one of the many financial statements that we provide out of the box. And let me just resize this so we can get a complete overview of how the dashboard should look like. And now I'm going to actually make a zoom so we can see what we have here. So basically, this is a standard income statement where we have our accounts. This is the common chart of accounts that we provide, where we group the accounts using this hierarchy. But we can use the same hierarchy that you have configured in SAP, or we can build new hierarchies depending on your requirements. We have customers, that operate in many countries, in many regions around the world, and they require one structure per country. And many times they require not only that, they require another structure for taxation purposes and another structure for consolidation purposes. So in the system, we can build as many as we want, because remember that we can bring information from multiple data sources. So it is as simple as building that hierarchy in an Excel file and then merging and combining the information here in our system. And in that way, we can create different financial structures based on your requirements. And the same thing happens with the budget. In this report, we're analyzing the actual amount. We're comparing the actual amount versus the budget. And we see that, for example, here, when it comes to my expenses, I don't have the budgets. Why? Because probably I didn't capture the information, but probably I have my budgets in an Excel file. So we can connect to those budgets, we can bring them here, whether they are in Excel or in a budgeting system, and we can, combine everything together so you have in one single dashboard all the whole vision of the business, right? So if I just show and concentrate my attention for a bit on these charts that I have here on the right hand side of my screen, I will see that I am actually comparing my actual amounts versus budgets. And I really love this because based on these metrics, we can create the business alerts that I already mentioned before. Hey, my expenses are exceeding my budget. All right, let's set up a business alert that can let me know, actually not when they are exceeding. Let's say when my expenses are 80% of my budget, let me be proactive so I can understand that I am exceeding my budget and I can take proactive actions before it's too late and we can anticipate, decisions. So it's about, not only about analyzing the information, it's about being proactive on how we analyze the data. So, and as I mentioned during the presentation, right now, let's say that I want to understand a little bit more the story behind my data. So remember that I started from a high level overview dashboard, which was really KPI oriented. It was really punctual. It was really strategic. It was giving me, all the KPIs of the business. Then I decided that I want to concentrate my attention on the sales. And then I drill down into this income statement report. And then if I want to get a bit to the lowest level of detail, let's say that I want to understand, hey, why my operating expenses are 127K. I want to understand what transactions happened. I can just double click on this number and this will take me to the lowest level of detail where I will be able to see all those general ledger entries that happened for this specific period of time, for the month that I selected, and for the company or company that I am selecting. Remember that it doesn't really matter if I have 4 or 5 companies in SAP, which they might be sitting in different data sources. When we connect, we are combining everything and we can see the transactions, in this case of the 4 companies combined. So it is about how we drill down to the information, how we communicate the reports. Normally in traditional scenarios, we have, the financial statements, and if during the meeting we want to ask questions. We want to understand, okay, why are we getting this number? We want to validate if there's something wrong with the data. We need to wait, and sometimes we need to go back to the IT team so they can start preparing those views and those queries, and then we need to manipulate the data. So here is about how we can in real time ask those questions that we require. Now, what I have been showing right now, it's the out-of-the-box content. This is the content that you will see within just a couple of days. I will show you one more dashboard. For example, this is the open expenses dashboard where we are analyzing all my expenses. This is my accounts hierarchy that I have. Well, actually my expenses hierarchy. And then, we're breaking down information on a month-to-date basis. We have trends, quarter-to-date basis, while comparing this quarter against the previous quarter. So everything is about, comparing metrics over time to see what is the evolution, to compare metrics against the budgets, to get those variations. Here we're comparing the year-to-date against the previous year-to-date. And as I already mentioned, all these time-sensitive solution calculations, we can configure them. We can say, hey, my fiscal year starts in July, so my year-to-date calculation should be, all transactions from July to today. So it's super flexible, the solution in that regard. So these are some of the out-of-the-box reports that we have. We have, the standard financial statements, cash flow statements, profit and loss statements, balance sheet statements. But now what I want to show you next is some of the content that we have built for the other customers. So I will start showing you some business cases, and I want to show you two business cases. One is this one, which actually I think it really resonates with the context that we are living now, and this is a cash flow forecast. So what we are trying to analyze, and again, this is not out of the box, but we build it based on most of the out of the box metrics that we have. And I really like this because in one single screen, I can see how is the, the health of my bank balances. So in this case, I'm analyzing my bank's my currency, but you can analyze this information by banks or by the whole group of banks that you have. So in this case, these are my GPP banks. And I can see, I have my metrics. I am comparing my accounts receivable against my accounts payable to see what is the cash balance that I will have in the bank, right? So now, many times, and this is why this is custom, many times we know in a real scenario, we have transactions that are already posted in the ERP. We know that we are going to make those payments, and we know that we are going to receive certain money, right? But many times we want to make assumptions. Many times we know that probably there's a risk that a payment won't come in, and we want to enter data that we don't want to post on the ERP. Or many times we know that we are going to receive money, or we have certain commitment, but again, the transaction hasn't been posted in the ERP. So what we are doing in this dashboard, we're extracting information from an external data source. In this case, it's an Excel file with all those assumptions that we have, and we're bringing them here into this other category. So we have here the account receivable, we have the accounts payable, and this other assumption, which is cash that we are going to receive. So in this case, we start to create our, our inflows and outflows and our cash flow forecast. We know how are my account receivables and if they are aging and how old they're aging, what is my accounts payable, and then we know in which week we will have our lowest bank balance. So basically what I have here on this chart, and let me see if I can actually maximize it, I have my full 13-week cash flow forecast. So this is my current situation. This is, the difference between the accounts payable, account receivable. These are the movements, the inflows and outflows. And I am actually seeing that in week 34, and I have actually this bar in red color. I'm highlighting that this is the month where I will have problems with my cash. So, based on this, I can set up business alerts. I can say, hey, be careful on this week because you are not managing your cash in the right way. So again, this is providing me a high-level review of, which are my top customers with account receivables with the highest, amount, which are my highest, the customers that they take more to pay. So it's okay, probably Anglophone. It's 14 days in this case. It's not massive, but it's something that we can actually focus and concentrate our attention. And we're doing the same with the vendors. So on all of this analysis, we are analyzing, my receipts. How we get this information from the chart is that we have the receipts. We calculate, what the receipts are late, which receipts are actually happening. We get the total receipts, and then we are comparing this against the payments. Then we bring these other cash events that are the ones that I mentioned that comes from additional data source, and that's how we are getting the forecast for the next 13 weeks. So this is a really nice way of how we can present the data, and it's only, as I mentioned, it's expanding the capabilities of the traditional reporting tools that only focus on the transactions that are on the ERP. It's about bringing information from different data sources and complementing the information that we have. One last report that I want to show you from the business cases is when it comes to analyzing historical information. So for example, in this case, we are combining information from a historical system. So in this case, this is my headquarter, this is my historical data, that this is my old ERP system that we were operating from 2013 to 2020. And from 2020, we changed, right? And we have a new a new SAP implementation where we're now dividing information on segments, which in this case are divisions. But there are many things that are happening here. First and foremost, one is merging historical information with our current data, right? In the data model, we're preparing the data, we're structuring the data in a way that we can match. Obviously, depending on how we had information previously, there's a certain of elements of how we can match the information. In this case, I couldn't match the information on the account level because the accounts were different, but I did it on the account group level, where the account grouping were the same. So that's the reason why, in the historical amount, we're breaking down information. We're not breaking down information by division, whereas, in the actual amount we can. Now, here there are something happening. We have intercompany transactions, and here we have eliminations. So there are transactions that are happening, intercompany transactions that are happening across different divisions. Probably these are restaurants, probably these are companies that are trading between each other. So when it comes to all these, the cost, depreciation, assets, there are no eliminations in the company. Everything falls into the headquarter. But if I concentrate my attention now on the receivables, okay, we will see that, we have one column, which is the eliminations in the companies. And basically what we are doing here, we are eliminating these transactions to get, the complete review of the business of the headquarters. So this is, again, part of the logic that we can build behind the scenes. Is something quite common, it's something that we are doing all the time. And the whole idea, it's not only about, again, the information that we have in ERP, it's about how we combine information from different data sources. As the speed of data is increasing massively, how we can speed the time to create all these insights. So what I'm going to show you just finally, I want to show you how easy it is to create a financial statement from scratch. So I showed you what is that of the most content. I showed you some business cases that can help you analyze your financial data in different ways. And I want to show you how to create a report from scratch. So I'm just going to click on this designer view. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a report. I'm going to build a financial statement just in the next 2 minutes. And what I have here, I always say that creating a report is like cooking. And in order to cook, we need to have the right ingredients. And these are my right ingredients. I have information from multiple data sources, from multiple modules. As I mentioned, we have for inventory, manufacturing, procurement. But right now I want to concentrate my attention only on financials, right? So let's pretend that I have a financial role and I will only see, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and general ledgers. So what I'm going to do, I have two components in these ingredients that I mentioned. Measures, which are all the numbers that I want to analyze, and dimensions. So I want to build a report that is actually analyzing my actual amount. So I just drag and drop my actual amount here. I want to analyze my budget. So I just drag and drop my budget here. And I want to create the variation, right? So it's just as simple as creating a custom formula and saying, hey, I want to analyze my actual amount minus my budget, and this is my variation, right? So that's it, as simple as that, right? Now, how we break down the information, we already know that you might want to break down information by brands, by accounts, by companies, by dates, by the different segments that you have configured in your system. So, we can break down information by company. And here the first mistake that we see, and this is demo data, is that the sum of all the financial transactions should always be 0. Here, I just enter some manual information for demo purposes and my data is not matching, but in a real scenario, this should be 0, right, in the actual amounts. So now I'm breaking down information by company, or I can, instead of having it in rows, I will add it in slices. And, I can just drag and drop my accounts into my rows level. And guess what? Now I have a trial balance where I'm breaking down the information by different, accounts. Or I can, instead of having the accounts, I have hierarchies, right? So I can say, hey, you know what? I want to see my hierarchy that belongs to the balance sheet statement. So I have, balance sheet statement that when I expand, I will see assets, liabilities, equity. And if I expand this, let me just color the screen a little bit. I will, it's this one. I will expand this level. I will see that in assets, I have current assets, non-current assets. If I expand this level again, okay, I have account receivable, kind of cash equivalents. I can reorder because the cash are more liquid than the account receivable. And then I can, expand even more. And I will get to my lowest level of detail. So see how in just a couple of minutes, I created a balance sheet statement by just dragging and dropping, no cost required. And I can just, if I want to understand all the transactions that happen on this bank account, I will just double click here and I will get to the lowest level of detail, right? So once we have created this financial statement, and just really quick, we can break down this by segments, in this case, product lines, for example. I can drag it on the slicers, and I can say, hey, I want to analyze these product lines, or probably break down the report by product lines. We can always do that information. So it's like a pivot table. So once we save this report, what we can do, well, in this case, I just need to hide all the columns that doesn't have any value. Filter columns. So now we have, my reports. So now if we want to create something nicer, we can actually create something which is called a report packs. And a report pack is basically a set of reports that I can group them together. So let's say that I save this financial statement, and then I want to create a report pack. I just drag and drop the report here, and I am grouping certain reports, certain financial reports. This is something that financial people use all the time, where we have a cover page and we want to send this automatically, to my financial team at the end of every month. So we are not only automating the process of extracting the data, transforming the data, populating the reports, we are also automating the process of distributing these reports to the right audience. So what we will end up having is a report, a PDF file that we can send again automatically based on a schedule, or that we can send based on a business alert that looks like this, where I have, a cover page, I have my reports, I have, for example, this is my financial statements, balance sheet statement on the left-hand side, and profit and loss on the right-hand side. I have even here some text. So this number that we have here, this is a template. These numbers change over time. If tomorrow it's not 4%, it's 5%, this will automatically change. So it's about how we automate the process of creating financial statements. For example, here we are breaking down information by months. In here, when we are breaking down information by segments. So it's about how we automate all this process and how we send them automatically. So this is what I have prepared for today's session. So in overall, the whole idea of the solution, we are right now in the digital transformation, and the way how we analyze data needs to be more agile. We need to be able to, report that our reports are accurate, that we are faster in the process of creating information. So that will help you to enhance the time that you spend creating the reports, and will help you to have reports that will provide you on a monthly basis with accurate data.